Recap of the previous episode. Elena, Caroline, and Matt learned that Bonnie had died. Meanwhile, Nadia's true identity was revealed. She's actually Katherine's daughter. Damon and Jeremy devised a plan, hoping to work with Silas to bring Bonnie back to life. But first, they needed to find the mysterious anchor. The three of them arrived at a warehouse where the anchor was hidden among several crates. They split up and began searching. During the search, Damon became curious about the origins of the travelers. It turns out that 2,000 years ago, Silas and Qetsiyah were the most powerful witches among the travelers. However, they created an immortality elixir that was forbidden by nature, and as a result, the travelers were cursed for generations. Suddenly, Damon received a call from Qetsiyah. She threatened Damon with Elena's life, demanding that he kill Silas. This put Damon in a difficult position. If he killed Silas now, how could they bring Bonnie back? Damon was filled with rage. Qetsiyah's cruelty didn't stop there. She continued to emotionally torment Elena by cozying up to Stefan, while Elena, sitting helplessly in a corner, was visibly heartbroken. Stefan proposes to cook for Qetsiyah. Qetsiyah requested Peking duck.
Do you have a duck?
No, but maybe I could lure one inside. I got Elena in. How much smarter could a duck be?
In private, Damon and Jeremy had a secret conversation. Damon told Jeremy to put the plan to resurrect Bonnie on hold. Damon now wanted Jeremy's help in killing Silas. Jeremy was in deep agony. He had to choose between his sister, who was his only remaining family, and Bonnie, the girlfriend who had lost her life for him. Bonnie's ghost appeared to comfort Jeremy. She hopes that Elena will live. Damon prepared to strike Silas, but was unexpectedly discovered by the travelers. Their spell managed to disable his daylight ring, but they underestimated Damon. He endured the burning sunlight and killed them both. Meanwhile, Silas finally found the mysterious anchor, but it turned out to be a stone statue, or rather, a woman who had been petrified for more than 2,000 years. She was Silas's true love, Amara. Qetsiyah had deceived Silas all along. She never killed Amara because there was only one dose of the cure. Silas was overjoyed. He quickly used the blood of the travelers to awaken his beloved. Now things were really getting complicated. Elena's actress had to play 3 different characters. On the other side, as the sun set and the barrier naturally dissolved, Stefan suddenly launched an attack on Qetsiyah. All of his flirtation with her had been leading up to this moment. Stefan and Elena made their escape, leaving Qetsiyah heartbroken and once again betrayed by that same face. Amara's appearance had disrupted everyone's plans, especially Silas. He didn't know whether to feel joy or sorrow. Silas was desperate to die, so he lifted his immortality, but Amara was still an immortal. Fate had played a cruel joke on them. When Amara found out that Silas had taken the cure, she was overwhelmed with excitement.
I love you, Silas. But I have to be cured.
Silas's 2,000-year wait had resulted in nothing but betrayal. However, Amara didn't kill Silas. She had her own reasons for it. Amara fled, appearing crazed, talking to herself, and terrified by every sound. In the end, she ran into Damon. Stefan took Elena back to the castle, and despite his memory loss, he still instinctively protected Elena. Damon and Jeremy drank together. They had failed to resurrect Bonnie as planned, and Silas had vanished without a trace. Fortunately, their efforts weren't entirely in vain.
Elena, meet Crazy Pants. Crazy Pants, meet Elena.
Qetsiyah silently appeared in Stefan's room, ready to punish him. Originally, when Qetsiyah erased Stefan's memories, it was actually an act of kindness to ease his pain. But now, Qetsiyah intended to force all of Stefan's lost memories back into his mind at once, and most of them were filled with suffering. The memories flooded in like a tidal wave, and the physical and emotional pain he had suffered overwhelmed Stefan, leaving him unable to cope. It hurt so much. After 500 years on the run, Katherine was finally free when she turned back into a human. Just as she was ready to enjoy her new life, she noticed a streak of white hair. Her body was rapidly aging. Homeless and penniless, Katherine disguised herself as Elena and snuck into the college dorm. She even dyed her hair to match Elena's. Unexpectedly, Caroline returned to the dorm. She was too busy packing her things to notice that Katherine wasn't really Elena. Previously, Maxfield had discovered that Caroline and Elena were vampires and had threatened to expel them from school. Katherine cursed her luck. She had just found a free place to stay. Caroline finally saw through Katherine's disguise and demanded to know what scheme she was plotting this time. Katherine pitifully confessed that she had nowhere else to go. As a vampire, Katherine had never worried about money. She could get anything she wanted with a little compulsion. Caroline was about to throw her out, but Katherine made a proposal. Sometimes it takes a villain to defeat a villain. She offered to help Caroline deal with Maxfield as long as Caroline let her stay. Caroline and Katherine struck a deal, and together they overpowered Maxfield. Since Maxfield had vervain in his system and couldn't be compelled, they would need to drain his blood first. Maxfield panicked upon hearing this, especially when Caroline, after some precise calculations, decided they should drain half his blood. Katherine was quick and efficient, clearly experienced in bloodletting. Maxfield still thought Katherine was Elena. Under their interrogation, Maxfield revealed the existence of a secret society in the town called Augustine. Most of Augustine's members were part of a hereditary line, though occasionally they accepted extraordinary individuals like Maxfield. The society had their eye on Elena, suspecting she was a vampire. Maxfield's threat to expel Elena was actually meant as a warning to protect her. When Katherine learned there was an Augustine gathering happening today, she came up with a plan. If she attended in Elena's place, she could prove that Elena wasn't a vampire and get a free meal out of it. Katherine and Caroline exchanged knowing smiles. Later, Katherine, still disguised as Elena, attended the event. Just as Maxfield had warned, Diane, who opened the door, was very cautious. Vampires couldn't enter a house without an invitation from the owner, and Diane deliberately stepped aside without actually saying the words, clearly trying to expose Elena as a vampire. With a sweet smile, Katherine confidently strutted into the party, leaving Diane stunned. At the gathering, Katherine gorged herself, grabbing food without a care for maintaining Elena's elegant image, leaving Aaron completely dumbfounded. Aaron had met Elena before, so Katherine's bizarre behavior left him utterly confused. Finally, Katherine noticed the boy staring at her in bewilderment.
Bring the sandwich, please.
Katherine thought Aaron was a member of the secret society, but judging by his expression, he seemed completely unaware of its existence. Suddenly, one of Katherine's teeth fell out, and Aaron, standing behind her, was shocked. A panicked Katherine quickly made her exit. Meanwhile, Maxfield's vervain had finally been drained from his system. Caroline immediately compelled him and started questioning him about Megan's death. The reason Maxfield covered up Megan's true cause of death was because the vampire responsible had a complicated identity.
It was the Augustine vampire.
Caroline was stunned to learn that Augustine's sole purpose was to create controllable vampires. Frantic, Caroline asked for the identity of the vampire, but just then, someone arrived. Caroline had no choice but to erase Maxfield's memory and leave quickly. It was Diane, there to inform Maxfield that Elena wasn't a vampire after all.
Guess I was wrong.
Later that night, Maxfield was getting ready to leave work when Katherine showed up. It turned out she had stolen one of Maxfield's recording tapes and discovered that he was creating Augustine vampires. Katherine, still the scheming queen, betrayed Caroline to find out what was wrong with her body. She explained the secret of her doppelgänger to Maxfield and revealed that she wasn't actually Elena.
I think I'm dying and I need you to save my life.
Maxfield ran a series of tests on Katherine and found that her body seemed perfectly normal. Katherine was very dissatisfied with the result. She had white hair and was losing teeth. How could nothing be wrong? Maxfield concluded that Katherine was rapidly aging.
Let's just say time is catching up with you.
How do we stop it?
We don't. It's just life running its course. Quicker than normal.
How much quicker?
If it continues at this rate, you have a few months.
Never provoke a heartbroken witch, especially when you flaunt your love life in front of him. Silas has been waiting for 1,000 years to find his true love, Amara, but his undying love is repaid with betrayal. While waiting at a bus stop, Silas vented his sorrows to a nearby couple. Their first reaction was that something was clearly off about this guy, and the man even quietly hid his bag.
Here's my advice. Live it up, enjoy this love while it lasts.
The young couple scoffed at Silas's advice, But suddenly, the man was hit with excruciating stomach pain and started vomiting blood. Having been betrayed by love, Silas couldn't stand seeing anyone else happy. That was the price for flaunting their affection in front of him. The woman immediately abandoned her boyfriend. Silas shrugged and told the dying man, "See, your girlfriend's just as heartless. Love really cannot stand the test." After positioning the body neatly, Silas grabbed the man's bag and boarded the bus. Since Stefan regained his memories, he's been plagued by nightmares. His repeated near drownings had left him with severe claustrophobia. Amara, who was the mystical anchor, had been locked in the cellar by Damon. She is crazy and desperate to die, as if she is suffering every second of her life. But until Bonnie could be resurrected, Amara had to stay alive. Damon contacted Silas, demanding that he return and fulfill his promise to bring Bonnie back. But Silas refused. Not only did he reject the idea of resurrecting Bonnie, but he also intended to kill Amara to end her suffering once and for all.
Well, if you don't bring Bonnie back from the other side, then you'll be breaking your promise to Elena. And the idea of jeopardizing your relationship brings me this perverse amount of joy. So I've decided not to help you, Damon.
This was Silas's revenge. When Stefan learned that Silas was on his way back to town, he became filled with murderous intent. Stefan believed that only by killing Silas could he finally be free from all his pain. Jeremy was in charge of bringing food to Amara, with Bonnie's ghost constantly by his side. To their surprise, Amara could actually see Bonnie. As the mystical anchor, Amara essentially served as a gateway between the living and the dead. Bonnie could touch Amara, but this action terrified Amara. Suddenly, Bonnie thought of another way to come back to life. She could replace Amara as the anchor, allowing her to exist in both worlds. Bonnie and Jeremy quickly shared their discovery with their friends. This way, they wouldn't need Silas's help after all. The problem, though, was that the mystical anchor had been created by the ancient witch Qetsiyah, and only she could perform the spell to switch them. So Damon went to see Qetsiyah. Damon used the situation between Silas and Amara to provoke Qetsiyah. Silas was planning to destroy the other side, and then die with Amara. Qetsiyah couldn't let them be together, not even in death. Damon proposed the idea of switching the mystical anchor. Qetsiyah, however, was skeptical. The spell would drain a tremendous amount of her power, and she would need external forces, like a comet or full moon, to pull it off. Damon was left feeling disheartened. Then, Qetsiyah had a sudden realization. Doppelgängers were mysterious creations of nature, and perhaps their blood could be used as a substitute. Damon was overjoyed. After all, his home was full of doppelgängers. After 2,000 years, Qetsiyah and Amara finally came face to face. Amara apologized for seducing Silas, but Qetsiyah had already tortured her by making her the anchor for 2,000 years. In truth, they were even now. Amara only wished for death, and Qetsiyah promised to end her life, but she also vowed to trap Silas's soul on the other side.
And Silas, you're gonna spend eternity apart.
Katherine rushes over upon hearing the news. Katherine was willing to help because she hoped Qetsiyah would cast a spell to stop her rapid aging afterward. Qetsiyah agreed. The three doppelgängers gathered together in one place. They shared the same face, but their personalities couldn't be more different. Using Bonnie's spellbook as a medium, Qetsiyah had each doppelganger drop their blood onto the pages. Katherine winced in pain, while Elena looked smug. This kind of pain was nothing for a vampire. Under Qetsiyah's spell, the three drops of blood began to move and merge, forming a magic circle. The flames in the room suddenly flared up. Suddenly, the candles went out, and Qetsiyah exclaimed that someone was interrupting her spell. Every light bulb in the room exploded. Silas had finally made his move at the most critical moment. The mystical anchor, Amara, had vanished, while Qetsiyah found Silas. It was a showdown between the strongest warlock and the strongest witch. In battles between such powerful beings, the outcome is often decided in an instant. Because Qetsiyah had just drained her magic and wasn't using her full strength, Silas gained the upper hand. After 2,000 years of tormenting each other, their twisted love story was finally coming to an end. Just as Silas was about to deliver the final blow, he suddenly received a call from Stefan. It turned out Stefan had taken Amara, and he wanted a final showdown with Silas. After Silas left, Elena found the severely injured Qetsiyah. Elena pulled the iron rod from Qetsiyah's chest, forcing her to continue the spell. In the forest, Silas found Amara. Amara still loved Silas, but after enduring 2,000 years of agony, death was her only desire. Silas was heartbroken, but he understood her suffering. Killing Amara, the mystical anchor, would cause the other side to collapse. Once Silas was dead, their souls would be together forever. So, despite his deep reluctance, Silas had no choice but to raise the blade against his beloved. Silas placed the blade against Amara's throat. Just as he was about to slice it open, Stefan charged in. He had been waiting for this moment. He wanted Silas to know what it felt like to be suffocated. But a vampire was no match for a witch. With a wave of his hand, Silas sent Stefan into a crippling headache. Stefan was consumed by a need for revenge. After regaining his memories, he had relived all his pain. Out of all that suffering, the most excruciating was repeatedly drowning and reviving, all thanks to Silas. But the pain Stefan endured was nothing compared to what Silas had gone through. Villains often lose because they talk too much, and Silas was no exception. Seizing the opportunity, Stefan picked up the fallen knife and stabbed Silas in a surprise attack. Amara rushed to her love's side, gently caressing his face. Amara stabbed herself in the abdomen with the dagger, intending to commit suicide. Just then, Damon arrived. Qetsiyah's spell was not yet complete, so she could not let Amara die. Damon quickly tried to heal Amara with his own blood, but she spit it out. Bonnie, losing hope in her resurrection, began saying her goodbyes to Jeremy. At the same time, Qetsiyah's spell was nearing completion, and flames ignited on the spellbook.
I love you.
But still, I love you.
I'm ready to let you go.
For you. Is this real? You guys can see me?
The spell worked. Bonnie was resurrected, and she replaced Amara as the mystical anchor. The three girls embraced in excitement. Poor Silas and Amara were ultimately unable to be together. Katherine found Qetsiyah and hoped that she would keep her promise to cast a spell to stop her from aging, but Qetsiyah said she could not help. In the end, Qetsiyah chose to die as well, hoping to reunite with Silas on the other side. Silas never managed to escape her grasp. Just as Bonnie was basking in her joy, Qetsiyah's spirit appeared before her. As the mystical anchor between the living and the dead, Bonnie was now the ferryman for all supernatural souls. No wonder Amara was so desperate to die. It turns out that every time a spirit crossed into the other side through the mystical anchor, the anchor would experience the pain that soul had endured in life. When Elena found Stefan, he was staring blankly at Silas's corpse. Killing his own doppelgänger was a strange feeling, like he was burying himself. At the same time, Nadia approached her mother, Katherine, asking her to come back home with her, but Katherine cruelly refused. Katherine knew her time was running out. She didn't want her daughter to suffer the grief of losing her, so she played the villain once again.
I can't be there for you. So take a good look, because you are never going to see me again.
Suddenly, Katherine seemed a little more pitiable.
Hello, my shadow self.
You'll be okay now.
Stefan personally buried Silas, but the pain didn't go away. It only grew more intense.